Hamas is a terrorist organization which makes a fetish out of the murder of Jews. And I'd like to know who it was who thought that that movement was a good thing. This, incidentally, if you don't mind Jew murder, let me tell you what these people were doing just a couple of weeks ago to their own co-religionists in the Gaza, where they went to their next-door neighbors and threw people off buildings and shot people in the back when they were running away. And you think now this is a rehabilitated organization because they posed for the release of a journalist?
Hello everyone, I greet you in the name of God Almighty. My name is Apostle Silas, and today we have a very interesting video to react to. And then this one says that you are so venomous, journalist slam Douglas Murray and get schooled instantly. I believe that this is going to be a very interesting video. So guys, without any further ado, let's get down to this video and check this out.
You are about to see Douglas Murray take on a whole panel concerning the war in the Middle East. This debate took place a few years ago, but remains even more relevant today. The topic in question is about the sympathy for Hamas within certain Western circles. The discussion is sparked by remarks made during a panel that included Douglas Murray, who articulated a standpoint that many find controversial yet crucial to understand. Let's dive in.
Should the West now have a more sympathetic approach to Hamas in light of their involvement in the release of Alan Johnston?
In the light of Hamas's involvement in the release of Alan Johnston, should the West now take a more sympathetic approach to them? Well, Douglas Murray, you better start on that.
Well, the answer is no. Of course not. I'd like to know who it was who was booing in the audience. I'd like to know who the Hamas supporter is in the audience here. Hamas is a terrorist organization which makes a fetish out of the murder of Jews. And I'd like to know who it was who thought that that movement was a good thing. This, incidentally, if you don't mind Jew murder, let me tell you what these people were doing just a couple of weeks ago to their own co-religionists in the Gaza, where they went to their next-door neighbors and threw people off buildings and shot people in the back when they were running away. And you think now this is a rehabilitated organization because they posed for the release of a journalist? Because they posed and organized that to look good?
Douglas Murray raises an intriguing question. Why is there sympathy for Hamas in some Western quarters? This sympathy often comes from a place of viewing the Israeli-Palestinian conflict through a lens of underdog versus oppressor. However, this simplification overlooks the complexity of the conflict and the ideologies driving it. Hamas's charter, for instance, calls not just for resistance against occupation, but for the destruction of the State of Israel, a goal incompatible with peace or mutual coexistence. Statistics and reports from various human rights organizations highlight the brutal methods employed by Hamas, including the use of civilian areas in Gaza as launching pads for attacks against Israeli civilians. According to a report by Amnesty International, Hamas has engaged in war crimes, including the indiscriminate firing of rockets into civilian areas. This tactic not only endangers Israeli civilians, but also Palestinian civilians, who are used as human shields. Furthermore, public opinion polls offer an insightful look into the perspectives of the Palestinian population. A poll conducted by the Palestinian Center for Policy and Survey Research found a complex picture of support and opposition to Hamas within the Palestinian territories, with varying views on the effectiveness of armed struggle versus negotiation. This internal diversity of opinion within the Palestinian community itself is often overshadowed in Western discourse by a monolithic portrayal of Hamas as the sole voice of Palestinian resistance. Notable figures and experts on Middle Eastern politics have criticized the uncritical sympathy for Hamas in the West. For instance, Bassem Aid, a Palestinian human rights activist, has repeatedly condemned the international community's failure to hold Hamas accountable for its actions, which he argues only perpetuates the suffering of the Palestinian people.
Silas, do you agree with that?
I don't understand, Douglas, most of what he says. I mean, I appreciate the comments that you make, but Douglas, you make them with such venom and such bizarre language. No. You know, with bizarre language that it really doesn't help.
I'm sorry, you can cozy up with Hamas,
Douglas,
you can hug Hamas if you want.
Douglas, you've had your fair share. Let us speak.
It doesn't help. We need to look forward for things. I think that I actually welcome the fact that Hamas were actually involved in the release of this person, and it was the first step. But we must be very clear about Hamas in terms of In terms of moving forward, should we appreciate them? Well, I hope that any organisation would help in the release of a hostage. And I think that we need to be very clear about this. In the recognition of Hamas, the principles, the Quartet principles, have been very, very clear. Hamas, if it is to be a responsible government, must recognise the State of Israel, it must denounce violence, and it must be prepared to accept previous peace agreements. So what we have to send out the message to Hamas is, this is a first step, but you know what the table rules are, and if you're prepared to come to the table, then maybe we can think about it.
How do you distinguish between them and the way we negotiated with the IRA?
I think we said exactly the same.
Without them doing any of these things?
No, well, we did. We made it very, very clear. They have to denounce violence, they have to be prepared to put down their arms, and they have to be prepared to recognise. I mean, they were not saying that they do not recognise the existence of Britain or did not want that state to exist.
United Ireland, and they didn't have to give up that claim during the negotiations.
And Hamas still have Mr. Shalit.
Misplaced sympathy for Hamas in some quarters of the West can be seen as part of a broader trend where moral relativism obscures the lines between oppressor and oppressed, between terrorist organizations and democratic states defending their citizens. This view often ignores the fundamental differences in values and methods between democratic states like Israel and terrorist groups like Hamas. Israel, despite facing existential threats, operates within a framework of laws designed to protect human rights and minimize civilian casualties, even when engaging in self-defense. In stark contrast, Hamas deliberately targets civilian populations as a strategy, a clear violation of international law and basic human decency. Moreover, the sympathy for Hamas in the West often neglects the voices of Palestinian victims of Hamas's tyranny within Gaza. Human rights organizations have documented numerous instances where Hamas has suppressed dissent, persecuted minorities, and imposed harsh governance that contradicts the very democratic values some of its Western sympathizers claim to uphold. For example, according to a report by Human Rights Watch, Palestinians in Gaza have been subjected to arbitrary arrests, torture, and even extrajudicial killings by Hamas for criticizing the group's rule or for alleged collaboration with Israel without due process. Critics of Western sympathy for Hamas, including prominent Muslim reformers like Maajid Nawaz, argue that such sentiment betrays a form of low expectation racism or the bigotry of low expectations, where Westerners do not hold groups like Hamas to the same moral standards expected of their own societies or Israel. This perspective suggests that by excusing or even romanticizing Hamas's actions, the West undermines not only the prospects for peace, but also the struggle for human rights and democratic governance within Palestinian society.
I think we absolutely need to be sympathetic to the Palestinian people. This is like the longest occupation in modern times. Yeah. Why would normal people decide to support like a terrorist group? Because they feel like they've got no other options. And we have supported Israel for so long and for way, way too long.
Douglas Murray?
Gaza is not occupied. And to make the equivalent between the suffragettes never got onto a bus and tried to blow it up and kill as many people as possible. If they did, women might not have the vote.
Okay, the man in blue there. I'll come to you, Charlie. Man in blue there.
Let's be clear. Hamas has a popular mandate to rule the Palestinian people. Does this mean that every Palestinian is a terrorist facilitator? Should we just eliminate all of them? Because by calling them a terrorist organization, you're obviating the possibility of negotiating with them. If you just call them a terrorist organization, they're in charge of the country. Does that mean we should wipe out Palestine?
Don't say they speak for the Palestinian people. Hamas and Palestinians are different.
They've been elected democratically.
Right. Okay, Charlie Bell.
Come in, yeah. Okay, number one, they do speak for the Palestinian people because they were democratically elected. Secondly, and the other point...
Does he speak for you? He's in government.
Yes, he does, because he was the majority. No, not all the time, but I support him because he is the government. Well, he isn't the government by himself.
Well, that's a very interesting one. Newton's law says that action and reaction are equal and opposite, and then to every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. If you look at, understand, October 7, of course, Hamas carried an attack, understand, in Israel, and a lot of people died, a lot of children died, and then all those things. And then Israel, in the other way around, decide to attack, you understand, Hamas. And in the process, of course, since Hamas, you understand, decide to build some of their bunkers where there's civilians, and then in the process of doing that, Israel decided, you understand, to attack Hamas, and then they end up, you understand, killing a lot of innocent civilians. And then why do you think that all these things, you understand, happen? It's because of why? If you attack a person, you don't have to determine, you understand, the degree or the amount of havoc the person will also cause for you. Another instances also happened just some few weeks ago, right? Israel decide to attack, you understand, the Iranian embassy, right? So when he attacked the Iranian embassy, and what did Iran do? Iran decided to send over 100, you understand, missiles to Israel. If not because of the Iron Dome that was able to reduce it, else otherwise by now we could have not even have a country called Israel by now. You see why? Because of what? Israel decided to attack the embassy. But what do you think, you understand, Iran do? They decide to attack. So you see, you can only be responsible for your own action, but you can't be responsible of somebody what reaction. So now when you look at it, it does not mean that because of Hamas, you understand, posted for the release of the journalists means that whatever Hamas stand for is legitimate. Now international organizations have designated, you understand, Hamas as a terrorist organization, which means that what the Palestinian people have a legitimate, you understand, government. So which means that the legitimate government does not, you understand, recognize, you understand, Hamas. So if you look at it, you realize that Hamas is actually a terrorist organization. Now Hamas decided, you understand, to use the people of Palestine, you understand, to shield whenever, you understand, they carry out, you understand, their attack. They went on to hide, you understand, in between of the people of Palestine, and then the innocent ones, you understand, always lose their life. You see, that is the reason why you see we always advocate and says that what, let's try to live in peace, because war is not good. The reason being is, it's not that because of UN have not passed so many resolutions, but then when there is a war, at that point in time, all those resolutions are broken, and that's the reason why you see one of the country will decide to attack the other, and then there's attack, counter attack, you know, attack and counter attack and all that. And those are some of the norms that has been happening, and that's why we are advocating that what, they should just cease fire, so that what, let peace reign. Because as far as this war, you understand, continues, those are some of the things, you understand, we keep, you understand, we would keep on, you understand, facing. For instance, common things that what most Christians may not like is, for instance, the issue of homosexual. Does Hamas support homosexual? No, they don't support, you understand, homosexual. So you see, that's a common thing. So them advocating for a journalist to be released does not mean that what is legitimate. You understand? Just like how you see, for instance, both of them, you understand, don't even support, you understand, the homosexuals. You see? So that does not still makes them what, legitimate. So that's the reason why, you understand, we are saying that what, the Muslim will have, you understand, to distinguish between Hamas and the people of what, Palestine. From there, we can be able to what, to address, or we can be able to condemn some of the activities of the respective what, terrorist, you understand, organization. So that in case, you understand, Israel are violating, you understand, the right of the Palestinians, then from there we can be able to at least condemn them for that very act. Just like how we condemn Hamas for attacking, you understand, Israel, the Jews, you understand, that is on the 7th October. We condemn them, you understand, for doing that. Likewise, so that if Israel violates, you understand, the people of Palestine, then we can also condemn the Jews for doing so. But immediately, you understand, you try to generalize everything, then it looks like, you understand, they are attacking the people of Palestine. Maybe probably in the other way around, maybe the Israeli are trying to attack, you understand, Hamas. Probably that could be one of the reasons why you see Iran decide to attack, you understand, Israel. Why? Because of what, people, they just feel that what, they are attacking, you understand, people of Palestine. Whereas the people, whereas they are actually going, you understand, they are going after the Hamas and not the people of Palestine. But it's just that because of it is war, definitely civilians, understand, will always, understand, be victim of some of these things. And that's the reason why what we have to keep advocating for peace. We have to keep advocating what, for love. We have to advocating for at least these people, for at least we call for the international community, for them to be able to at least to recognize, understand, the two states, right? Let's recognize, understand, Israel, and let's also recognize the state of what, Palestine. And then as for the Hamas, they have to find a way, you understand, of taking care of them, so that at least we can all live in peace. I know that of course a lot will not agree with me, but I just felt like, you understand, that it's normal. This is just my own opinion on how, you understand, I understand some of these things, and then you can also drop yours. Okay, I'm not saying that whatever I see has to be, you understand, the correct way, but then that is just my own way of seeing it. So this is the end of my video. If you like my reaction, you should like, share, and subscribe. If you have any video you want me to react to, don't forget to drop it at the comment section, and I'm going to check it out. So you remain blessed, and I see you in my next video. Bye bye.